Fairy tales used to be terrifying and, in doing so, teach valuable lessons in how not to die. One could argue they are the original horror stories. Everything in Grimm's fairy tales is particularly grim. Over the years, though, many of these nightmarish creatures became cute and cuddly or sexy. Looking at you, Shape of Water. Have these myths become permanently nerfed, or is there hope they can maintain their dark allure? Welcome back to Morgan's Writing Tips and Writerly Musings with writing tips from the pros and, of course, my own writerly musings. I'm your host, Morgan Hazelwood, and today I'm here to share more notes. Shocking absolutely no one. So I'm here with There is a Reason You're Afraid of the Dark. Notes from the titular RavenCon 2023 panel with the panelists Tina Glasnick, Jennifer Allen, Bishop O'Connell, and Alex Matsuo. So let's talk favorite fairy tales. In nearly every culture, there are tales for children, tales with monsters and moral lessons. Most of us have our own favorites. For the panelists, their favorites included Oisin Goes to Tir na Nog, Little Red Riding Hood, and Finn McConnell and the Salmon of Wisdom. Now, fairy tales have lessons. Most fairy tales have moral lessons. They have takeaways meant to keep the listener safe by avoiding the errors of the characters in the stories. Lesson number one, stay on the path to stay safe from animals or people who would do you harm. Lesson number two, treat people with kindness. In the stories, they might be gods or supernatural slash influential people. Lesson three, you can't take everything at face value. Tip four, don't go into strangers' homes. And tip five, sometimes the wrong person can get the reward by being in the right place at the right time. So, why fairy tales and not lectures? If fairy tales are supposed to be moral lessons, why do we use storytelling instead of lectures? Well, there are many reasons, but here are a few. Number one, people don't like being told what to do. Number two, tales can show worst case scenarios without sounding like a paranoid parent. Number three, people are more open to learning when they're being entertained. Number four, it's easier to listen to stories of monsters instead of being told to watch out for other people. So, are we past the age of myth creation? While various themes are carried throughout, most of our modern fairy tales are retellings. Now, some of our fairy tales are newer than we think, but in this age of social media and the expectation of any new quote unquote myths being fact checked for dates and times and faces, some think that the age of myth is over. They're wrong. Writers filter the world through stories. The myths evolve to show our current hopes and fears. This is where urban legends come from. Stories make life more palatable. Too much information is overwhelming and often conflicting. Stories can simplify, and a lot of people crave that. So, what makes a fairy tale retelling worthwhile? Well, many storytellers and their fans enjoy a retold fairy tale, but what keeps them from turning into tired tropes? Number one, they should translate motivation and goals into the chosen story setting. In Ever After with Drew Barrymore, the storytellers leaned into putting their Cinderella in a particular place and time with Leonardo da Vinci. In the live action Disney Beauty and the Beast, they had much more nuanced versions of Gaston and the Beast, rather than the jerk caricature of Gaston and the awkward but means well, skipping entirely the Stockholm Syndrome part. Um, They a beast of the animated classic. Other favorite remakes include Bram Stoker's Dracula and Gawain and the Green Knight. I think they were referencing the 91 movie and not The Green Knight from 2021. Another thing retellings do is, well, villain retellings can show new perspectives, or they can make stories more accessible to a wide array of readers and watchers. Retold fairy tales can translate the plot and goals into a new setting and perspective, and they often use that to illustrate the fears and hopes of the current age. Now, there is discussion to be had if making more accessible characters weakens them, but it depends on the storytelling, not the fact that the characters are being made more accessible. So we asked the panelists next, what creatures get overlooked? Now, there are many fairy tale creatures that don't get their fair share of the press, but I'm thinking that panelists don't read the same books I do because, well, I'm seeing plenty of these. They were craving more selkies, muses, and goblins. So if you're looking for new fairy tales or retold ones, where can you find them? You can find them anywhere from Reddit's slash After Dark to an archive of our own to YouTube videos created about Minecraft mythology. Some highly recommended sources are Neil Gaiman as a modern folklorist, the movie Spirited Away and other Studio Ghibli movies, and Pan's Labyrinth. I'm a huge fan of fairy tales, both old, remade, and new. Now, some fear that in the future, Disney's versions will replace Grimm's as the best remembered fairy tales, as Grimm's replace those that came before. But others believe the versions that will be remembered are the retellings and the fresh myths that we need. And I agree. Let me know what your favorite fairy tale is below. Let me know what your favorite monsters are that you'd like to see. And I'll be back again next week with more writing tips and writerly musings. Bye bye.